Welcome into another edition of the Sports Edge Podcast with host and Commissioner Dan Stanzik. The Guru is on assignment, scouting players in Las Vegas, so filling in his 7.5 shoes from Raleigh, North Carolina, the back-to-back regular season champion, Tom Hathaway. Thanks for doing this. How you doing tonight?
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure being here. Just want to shout out for those who are going to be watching on the actual YouTube, this throwback of Fairfield polo here as well, which I decided to dust out of the closet.
That looks like it's real old school. Like what decade are we talking there?
We're talking early 90s, potentially late 80s.
Wow, that is old. How did you get your hands on that?
The story behind this is I actually have a cousin of mine who went to Fairfield 88 to 92, I think it was, also, and met her husband there, a great guy.
Wow.
And they got 4 kids now, but whenever we are with them, in fact, I just saw them for my sister's wedding, so we were doing a lot of,
Fear the deer.
Fear the deer, of course, and kind of reminiscing on old times as a stag, especially some stories and tales from the sea grape, which I think I may be able to have a good one for us later on this evening.
I like it. That is an unintended tie-in and tease there that we didn't even plan on, but we do have a lot to get to tonight, including a power ranking of Fairfield couples. So look at you there. But we will quickly dive into this week's action. I'm just going to give a quick note on every team in the league, and you can feel free to jump in at any point. I guess I would say this is kind of in order of how I would power rank the teams presently. But I didn't put too much thought into that. But I'll take it away here. Robbie, Rock the Guru. He still sits atop the rankings and atop my power rankings formula, which is, I hold close to the vest on my Excel spreadsheet. But Robbie's still at 4-1. Big win over Guru, still top team in the power rankings. Zan's put up 130 points. He knocked off Pete. He is our defending champ. He leads the league in points, averaging 137 a game during the last 3 weeks. Zan's looks pretty strong. B. Walsh, your old housemate, put up a league high 142 in a rout over Hoban. And I guess that is just further evidence that The Departed was actually a great movie. As you remember in the preseason, Hoban has some issues with The Departed, which we've not gotten to yet. I'm sure we will on a future podcast. B. Walsh, obviously a Boston guy there. Knowingly, he knows that The Departed was a great movie. Tom, Departed, great movie, right? You're not a Departed hater?
Oh, absolutely not. It is an all-time classic.
Okay,
I did not buy any of Hoban's, concepts on that one.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure he'll throw some terrible plot points at us or something. Like I said in a future episode. And I should thank Hoban for filling in last week. Him and the Guru couldn't quite figure out the video, but appreciate those guys doing that. That was good. Picking up for me last week. Speaking of me, thanks to a big Monday night by Travis Kelce and Rashid Shaheed, we took care of you, Ath, in a 2022 SEFFL title game rematch. Surprised we didn't get to that already. We had an interesting Monday night there. You were up 12 with Carson Steele, and I had Kelce and Shaheed. Kelce was getting fed early, and then Shaheed had a long touchdown, and that was basically it.
Yeah, after the long a TD at the end of the second quarter, it was nighty night. A little bit more REM for me. Quite frankly, I was just a little bit pleased that my boys even kind of put up a little bit of a test.
Yeah,
but I will take it. It's kind of a good way to get through a heavy bye week and unique a lot of players out. But I was happy with the depth play.
Yeah. We'll get to your team here in this list. Steve, though, took care of business against Kess. Steve is now 4-1 after I crushed him in week 1, and he's rattled off 4 straight. And he also celebrated his 30th birthday on Monday, so happy birthday to Steve. Another one of your former housemates. You guys are the Rusty Trombone, well represented in this league.
Does Steve share a birthday with your bride, Dan?
He does. That's
awesome.
That is the reason I remember it as Steve's birthday. There was one year early when I was dating Jenna, probably a year or two in, and I had to be in New York City on the 7th because I was producing a New York Giants football game on the radio for ESPN Radio the next day. So I think I was in the city on Saturday, and Saturday was the birthday. So I spent one of my wife's birthdays with Steve in the city on his birthday. Of course, the birthdays being the same day. Steve could corroborate that. I forget what year it was. Moving right along, though, Pete's new acquisitions, Zay Flowers, Ramondre Stevenson, who he got from Steve, Put up more than 32 points combined. Not enough to beat Zan's though. So Pete drops a game there. Hath, your team, as you alluded to, exceeded expectations. You guys were projected for like 82, put up 112 or something like that. Couldn't quite get the win against the Commission. We will address your team in more detail coming up. The Guru put up the lowest total of the week and his lowest total since 2022. So I guess it's a good week for him to be off the podcast. Hoban has now scored more than 100 points back to back weeks, but he has lost both games after getting drubbed by Walsh by 40 points. And Kess lost to Steve, as we mentioned, and he has not scored 100 points in a week this season. I'm sure he'll blow out my team this week, but the last time a team went 5 straight weeks without scoring 100 points, any guesses as to which manager it was? The last manager to go 5 straight weeks without cracking 100 points.
Current owner?
Current owner.
God, Walsh?
No, no. And actually, I thought it would be a lot longer. I thought I was going to have to go back deep into the archives to like the Max Ayudo days, but it was actually the aforementioned Steve Curtis.
Ooh.
2021, 6 straight games without topping the century mark, but he did win that sixth game. New segment this week. We mentioned we'd get into your team in more detail. Our segment is called Paths Paths. So Tom, your team 1-4. You spent 92 of your $100 in waiver money. Travis Etienne is getting outscored by the black white supremacist Clayton Tank Bigsby. That said, you're just one game out of a playoff spot. So what is your path to a title this year for the Sun God's disciples?
That's a great question, and something that I've been trying to figure out as I go here. This is obviously the worst start for me since I had like a weird year in 2020. I think I finished 6-7, but otherwise since 2019, I've been pretty consistent.
And that year you were, I just pulled it up right here. That year you were 2-3. You weren't 1-4.
Yeah. And that was actually a weird year where I think it was a pretty tight league overall, if I remember. But
Yeah.
I think that what I'm seeing here is a lot of issues in terms of very quick turnover in my RB depth. Something that was a strength for me over the past several years has become a major weakness. What I really need to see is, quite frankly, more out of Tony Pollard. A lot. I mean, frankly, David Montgomery is really carrying my squad from an RB1 production, which is not a good sign. I need CeeDee Lamb to become CeeDee Lamb again. Right now, he is either, I don't know if it's an issue of him still recovering from injury, being the only weapon. Not that that wasn't the case last year, but I need him to be able to take over games the way my boy Joey Burrow did last year
Yeah.
for me.
Burrow,
44
43
points.
points in a loss. That's tough. And we should note the famous trade we made where you got CeeDee Lamb, who was awesome for you last year. You got CeeDee Lamb and Travis Etienne. I got Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey. You got a pick involved there that I've since gotten back from you. CeeDee Lamb has been great. I mean, this week less than 9 points. So not awesome, but Etienne, as I alluded to, hasn't been that great for you either. So what do you think your move is here? Do you think that you're gonna have to make some trades? You're just gonna hope for some players to perform from within? What do you think your move is?
I think at this juncture, unless a trade really makes sense that comes down the line, I've had a couple I've entertained but didn't really make sense. I'm gonna hold. The one thing I'll point out is, even though it's not early, but it's not exactly late either. Through the first, 4 weeks here, or no,
5 weeks.
5 weeks, excuse me.
It's all right.
I think I've played four of the top five teams. I think I have either the second highest or highest points against. I'm kind of middle of the pack on points for, but a lot of that has to do with me and Hoban having a pillow fight that I lost in week one. I think I've kind of trended better since then. I've kind of been in the top four-ish on points and kind of week trending, or 4 or 5. So I don't think I'm out of it. I think it's more so I got to get better at consistently picking my flex spots. I've gotten burned on that pretty much every week up until now. So I put this on manager error more than on my guys. And then, quite frankly, I kind of blew it in my early round picks. I had traded up. I spent some capital there. Blake Corum hasn't gotten the early reps I was forecasting. And my boy Ladd has been inconsistent. He's kind of boomer bust every other week. So for me, it's hoping I get more consistency out of the starters, get my flex spots right. And frankly, ETN's been a massive disappointment when I made that trade with you, the famous trade of Jefferson and McCaffrey for ETN. And
See the lane.
man, ETN was a beast coming into that trade. He's really kind of been inconsistent, trending down since. So it's been
Yep.
a bit of a disappointment for me. I'm hoping Singletary can get over this groin issue. He was doing some solid plays over the last couple of weeks until then as well. But that's really my strategy. I think I'm going to kind of hold tight, see where I am. I think that Tucker Kraft could actually be a diamond in the rough for me based on how he's been performing. And I
Yeah.
still have TJ Hawkinson coming back. Not that I'm trying to follow some trends of other managers where I play two tight ends, but
Wise. Yeah, it's a losing
at least
strategy.
that's
But
done.
Tucker Craft, 2 touchdowns for you, put up 22 points. Your schedule going forward, like I said, you're only one game out of a playoff spot. You do have the Guru this week, then Zans, then Kess, who we've mentioned hasn't scored more than 100 all year, and then you get Steve, and then Hathaway, and then Hoban, excuse me. So. Some winnable games in there for sure. So, there's certainly a good chance you do turn around. But if things don't pan out this year, and right now it looks like it might be an uphill climb, but if that's the case, there's always next year. And I would argue that you and perhaps Kess like college football more than you like the NFL. Is that a fair statement?
Fair statement.
Okay, so with that being said, you're going to be our college football analyst here. Who are the top 5 college prospects that you're currently looking at as potentially impact players in the Sports Edge Fantasy Football League next year?
Great question, Dan. So I think as I'm looking at it now, right, I'm kind of either floating towards the bottom or I'm one spot out of a playoffs, a berth again. So for me, I'm already trying to keep an eye on the prize for next year. I think it's going to be kind of a unique fantasy draft, one in which you're not going to see much in the way of QB prospects coming out of the gates. Obviously, Steve hit it out of the park with JD Daniels, though he kept him on his bench until this week, which was not odd play. But now he's finally starting him. But for me, I think your 1-1 has to be. Oh, sorry, I'm going to start in reverse order, right?
Sure. Yeah, go reverse order. That's cool.
All right. So I'm going to go reverse order here, and I'm going to say the one quarterback I'll put in the top 5, and it may be still too early, but I think it needs to be said. He's an incendiary, polarizing player, Shadur Sanders.
There you
This
go,
guy,
Deion's son. Yeah.
that's right. I think that he's shown that playing through the adversity of an inept O line, frankly, poor coaching and management from his own father, he has all the skill sets there. He could end up lending in some pretty good spots for teams that are currently trending that are going to need a quarterback that are going to be coming out there. I could see him being an early candidate to do well. I think he'll use his legs more in the pros as well. So I put him at 5.
Nice. Yeah, running quarterback certainly a big advantage in fantasy. Who do you got number 4?
Number 4, in this case, and this is where I think you're going to have actually a deeper running back draft than even this year. I'm going to go with Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State.
Okay,
He's been
sure.
a consistent top performing running back now for a couple of years, frankly. He was number 1 in college football in terms of production last year, led the Big 12. Oklahoma State's having a down year, but it's not his fault. Look to him to be a top trending draft prospect as things go for as well. Another one here at number 3 is going to be another running back who's going to be Travion Henderson. Now,
Look
I'm
at you.
also
Wow, Ohio State guy. I'm surprised you went with him and not Quinshawn Judkins, if I'm saying that correctly. The Mississippi State transfer or Ole Miss
so
transfer, I forget.
so I thought about that, and here is my take on that. Junkins left for a reason from Ole Miss. He's replaceable. I think that he is lightning to the thunder, but frankly, Travion was a 3-down back last year, was incredible with a poor O line for Ohio State standards. I think that he could be a durable back who could do great things going forward. I might be trending more on RBs right now because they're my biggest issue, but now I want to touch on wide receiver here. My number 1 wide receiver, I think, coming out that you got to look for is Luther Burden III out of Missouri. He's their
Yep.
best player. He's an absolute monster. Granted, Texas A&M contained him this past week. We don't think it's a great team, but I think that was more scheme and being outcoached. Frankly, on the Missouri side, it wasn't really Luther's fault. So I put Luther there. Now we're going to my top
Number
2.
1. Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this one. He might be playing on some blue turf.
Ashan Genti, if I'm
There you
saying
go.
that correctly. This guy is an absolute monster. absolute monster. I think that he's going to be a absolute beast. When you actually look at the current landscape of running backs, Derrick Henry may be one of the last 10,000 yard rushers that we see for a long time because of the, of the dual
Yeah,
committee
a
of
lot of,
background.
committee backfields. No one's a three down back. A lot of two guys splitting carries.
And a lot of them are not durable in that way. This guy is an absolute beast. He's a 10-plus-year player. You got to target him first. And then just quick roundup here for my honorable mention, which you're gonna wonder, how did you not mention him? Probably Travis Hunter. Now, why did I not mention him? We don't know what he's gonna actually do. He wants to play both ways. I don't buy that any GM is gonna really let him do that on a consistent basis. Everything I've seen is that he's a better corner than he is a wide receiver, and that's where he would pan out. Otherwise, if I thought he was a wide receiver, I would have put him in there. I already got some early betting on him pre-season for Heisman, so everybody
Oh,
is looking at a nice little payout if that one comes in.
oh,
So
look at
Travis
you.
Hunter is definitely honorable mention.
Love it. Yeah, this would be for those not following the segment here. We did your path for this year. This would be your path for next year, highlighting some guys that would be in the draft. A few others I will quickly mention before we get to the next path. Tet McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, I think he had like a 300-yard game in week one. He's a monster. Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas. Omarion Hampton's a running back out of North Carolina. Keep your eyes on him. And the best tight end on the board, surprised you didn't mention him, Colson Loveland, out of your beloved Michigan. But
All four are on my list here.
okay,
All,
there you go. Nice. I
yep.
figured you're our college football analyst here. Path number three. You're a former Hoboken, New Jersey resident. You spent plenty of time taking the path train into New York City. So, do you have any stories about any fellow Stags that you either saw on the path or in Hoboken that you can share with us?
Good question, Daniel. The actual irony is because of where I worked, I didn't really do much path training and more the bus into Port Authority. I think you and I actually did a couple jaunts back to Hoboken as well. I picked you up there.
We did.
I had a couple interesting run-ins on the bus, but what I was thinking about, and this is, not completely what you asked, but I'm hopeful that this will actually work, is looking for a path to get somewhere
Ooh.
by someone from Fairfield who's near and dear to all of our hearts, Mr. Esteban Curtis.
Oh boy.
So this one goes back to an early gentleman's cup, one that
Oh boy.
I unfortunately got there late, I think, or I was not there for the incident in a question. In fact, Dan, I think you and I might have been there, but been somewhere else at the time. But needless to say, he's there early. He's with the Amadeo Murph crowd. They're having a ball. God is DJing there in the same way he does it in Wrigley Bill at a Sluggers and a Cubby Bear, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dance off ensues. Curtis whips off his shirt. Obviously, that stark contrast of the pale skin and the dark nipples is a quick eye opener.
Oh boy.
Bouncer gets him. He's out, and it's early daylight. He's kicked out of the grave for the day. We're posting
So
up
this is like a Saturday in either September, October, and we've been graduated like years ago.
years ago, and
Okay.
it's like the only place anyone's going for the next 12 hours is the grave. What is
Yeah.
Steve going to do? Steve needs a path back into the grave. What's his
Yeah.
path to get back in there? He tries to slide in and figure out smooth talk the bouncer. It's not
Yeah.
working. Finally, he comes up with the idea, and bear with me. Hopefully, the listeners here remember this. That like parking lot area behind the grave is part of like a street corner that I think like
Yeah, there's
Coop,
like a dead end street
those
there
guys
with
live
some
down there.
houses. Yeah.
Exactly. So he kind of
I
figures
think
out
there's
a
a
way
fence there too.
to like
Yeah.
he like gets over a fence, but like trips up and falls hard, eating it on his hands and like
Oh
scraping
God.
up knees, legs, face. And basically had what was described to me as a stigmata on his hands,
Oh
just like
boy.
blood coming in there, shirt ripped,
Yeah.
everything kind of torn up. But he gets in. Your boy Curtis gets in the backdoor kitchen area, gets
God.
through there, and is able to like be in there for like a couple minutes before the bouncer finally realized this beat up guy that he already kicked out is still there. So then he got literally tossed out this time, a second time for good that night. But kudos to Curtis for trying to find a pathway back into the grave. persevering, going through a physical injury, impressed with his skill set, and another great story from
Love it.
this past
See,
weekend.
Tom, you fit right in on the podcast. You know, we take as many shots as we can at Steve. You took a question about the PATH train in Hoboken, New Jersey, and you turned it into Steve Curtis' story at the Sea Grape. And you helped me with this transition because we're going right to a power ranking of Fairfield couples that I have put together. A couple weeks ago when Robbie was on, we mentioned a few Fairfield couples, one of which was a Joe's couple. I'm not sure if everybody in the league knows, with Jason Apostolides and Caitlin Phelps. They have a child together. I think they're married. There might be another child in the way. I'm not exactly sure. But you know, in my downtime today, I put together a list of Fairfield couples. I will start with some outside looking ins before I get to my top five. Feel free to chime in on any of these. And before I get or once I get through this list, if you can think of an outside the box Fairfield couple, or if there's a couple that I forgot to mention, feel free to have that in your holster once I run through this list. By my outside looking in category, I have Mark and Jamie Amadeo. I have Bobby and Emily Morales. I have Rory and whatever that other girl's name was, Duyan. I have the aforementioned Ben and Sarah Welch, Sarah Kelly. We mentioned that on the pod a few weeks back. I got to give a shout out to Matt and Rebecca Curry Edwards, all stags there. Dan and Caitlin Boudreau. Emmer would be her maiden name. We mentioned her on the pod a couple weeks back too.
Man,
Eric and Lauren Christensen will get a mention here only so that I can say I will not be investing any money in crypto through Eric, but that has not stopped him from asking me on Facebook. And we will move right along to number five. Got to give a shout out to my guy, Mikey DeStefano, Mikey and Carla DeStefano. Mikey, a high school teammate, high school classmate of Robbie, Kess, and John Zanzarella. Number four, Tyler and Emily Biratella. Number three, we mentioned them, or I guess we mentioned her as one of our favorite nicknames, Walks with a Purpose, Laura Dunn. So Tim and Laura O'Brien, number three on my list. Number two, number one, I got to be obvious. I can't do a top five list and not mention these. Justin and MT Eisner. And number one, of course, is Tim and Allison Burge. That was my Fairfield couples power rankings, 5-1. Got some honorable mentions. Anybody I missed? Do you have an under the radar one? What do you got for me, Tom?
you know, as you were going through there, a few of those people that you mentioned, I haven't thought about in a long time. That were great call outs who were dating for pretty much all of college, like Dan and Caitlin.
Caitlin. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was
Yeah.
really good
That was
one.
more because we were all friends with Caitlin freshman year, and Zans used to hook up with her and walk her home, and we would make closing time references, and we put the song on in our dorm rooms. It was like a funny bit we had.
Stanford,
So
nice man.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
No, I thought that the power rankings was spot on. I figured
Okay,
where you were going to go with it, but I was glad to hear Obi and Dunn snuck into the top three. Big fan of a tie and Emily. Obviously,
there you go.
love the Emma Carla and Mikey call out. I'm just trying to think of other couples that stand out. The only one that I don't know why it stood out in my mind was Sean Fay and
Jill,
yeah.
Sean Fay, another jokes too guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jill, that's a good call out. That's good. See, there you go.
Solid couple that was pretty much together all of
Yeah,
them too, right?
yeah. No, that's well done by you. Our final segment tonight, Tom. One that I pulled out of nowhere. We're going to call this segment North Carolina, Michigan, or Florida. For those that don't know, you currently live in Raleigh. You grew up in Michigan, and you spent plenty. How many years in Florida?
I was 4 years in
4 years in
Florida.
Florida. All right, so three states you've lived in. I guess we got Connecticut there, but I didn't include Connecticut. I'm going to read you a headline that I think most of them, all of them, are crimes. I will read you a headline, and then I'll ask you which state you think the crime took place in. Then I have some more details on that crime. But for you, you just have to guess North Carolina, Michigan, or Florida. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. Three people arrested after scuffle with county deputies at Shaquille O'Neal's chicken restaurant. North Carolina, Michigan, or Florida?
North Carolina.
It's incorrect. This one happened in Michigan. I don't
Really?
have the date on this one in front of me. I just took notes from the article. But I guess before Shaq arrived, a 21-year-old man was confrontational towards a deputy. The deputy de-escalated, but later a bystander told deputies the man was making abusive comments and believed that he had a weapon in his backpack. So the sheriff's office said that the deputy tried to make contact with the man, who then took a swing at the deputy. The deputy drew his taser, at which point a 48-year-old woman who was with the man tried to disarm the deputy. The woman and her 21-year-old daughter, according to the sheriff's office, obstructed the deputy from taking the man into custody. Two other deputies attempted to move the two women out of the way. Two women fell to the ground when being moved. The man then attacked one of the deputies, according to the sheriff's office, and tried to put that deputy in a chokehold. Two other deputies fired their tasers. Tasers had no effect. Three deputies wrestled the man into handcuffs and put him into custody. That all took place in Michigan. Number two, a man was arrested after attacking deputies who had contacted him to pick up his child who was trespassing at a local Walmart. North Carolina, Michigan, or Florida?
See, I was trying to remember Shaq's restaurant, and I didn't think it was in Michigan, but I know he's got a few franchises. But this one's a little bit more vague. This one I'm gonna go North Carolina since I got it wrong the last time.
Incorrect. This happened in Florida. The county sheriff's office responded to multiple reports of a group of juveniles causing disturbances inside a Walmart. The juveniles, all under 16, were seen riding bikes through the store, yelling, cursing at customers, and setting off car alarms. Sheriff Rick Staley commented on the incident, saying, quote, "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. We asked parents to pick up their children because they were causing trouble, but this parent chose to attack our deputies instead." You're 0 for 2, Tom. We got 3 to go. I want you to get on the board here. Number 3, a man was arrested for sleeping on a Walmart roof with a gun in hand. North Carolina, Michigan, or Florida?
I mean, all three states love their guns, but I'm gonna go Florida here.
You are correct. 1 for 3. You're on the board. When deputies arrived, an employee told them that he was checking the air conditioning unit after Hurricane Helene and noticed a man sleeping on the roof. Deputies say they made their way to the roof and found the man taking a nap with a revolver in his hand. According to reports, he was on the roof the night before to, quote, ride out the storm. Number 4, an online flirting incident ends in an attempted murder charge for a woman. North Carolina, Michigan, or Florida?
Yes, I was hoping you were gonna make it easy on me, like man attacks skater, tries to make love to him, and then I would know it's Florida there. Although I guess you could say South Carolina, but I don't know. That one I'm gonna go Florida again. I'm gonna run it back.
You are correct. This one also happened in Florida. A Florida woman facing 10 charges after deputies were called to the scene by the alleged victim, who claimed the woman fired multiple shots at him as he fled her home. The alleged victim told investigators he connected with the woman on Facebook earlier in the day. Their conversation turned, quote, flirtatious when discussing work for a horror production company he was trying to start, and she invited him to her home. When he arrived, the woman directed 2 young children to go into another room before taking the man into her bedroom. The man said he spotted a handgun on the bed and claimed the woman was attempting to, quote, seduce him and get him sexually aroused. After performing oral sex on the man, she allegedly said, quote, "You know you can't leave without paying me right."
Fair.
Last one for you, Tom.
Fair.
You're 2 for 4. Let's see if we can get to 60%. Last one should be an easy one for you. We will see. Number 5, local candidate allegedly made dozens of disturbing comments on porn forum. North Carolina, Michigan, or Florida?
That one's Florida.
Incorrect, Tom. I'm disappointed. This one was very much in the news. This one happened in North Carolina. Mark Robinson, the controversial and socially conservative Republican nominee for governor of North Carolina, made a series of inflammatory comments on a pornography website's message board more than a decade ago, in which he referred to himself as a, quote, black Nazi and expressed support for reinstating slavery. Despite a recent history of anti-transgender rhetoric, Robinson said he enjoyed watching transgender pornography. A review of archived messages found in which he also referred to himself as a, quote, perv. Many of Robinson's comments were gratuitously sexual and lewd in nature. They were made between 2008 and 2012 on Nude Africa, a pornographic website that includes a message board. Tom, I saved that one for you at the end.
That is bad.
I figured if you were 0 for 4, you would at least get that one. The guy's running for governor of the state you live in. Well, very much in the news a week or 2 ago. I forget exactly when.
What is actually bad about that is, one, I have been assaulted by ads of this guy
I'm
watching
sure.
sports for the last month, and obviously I've heard of that story. I forgot about the abhorrent element of it. The part that is interesting, and we may have to talk about if we're going to cut this out or not, but I actually met him more so because I was at an event with Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, and so met him maybe 2 months before this all took place.
Oh
So
boy.
that was on me. That
That
was
one's
on
on
me.
you. That one is
But
on you.
to redeem myself, I two more names or two more couples came into my mind that are
Oh,
worth
perfect. Here we go.
mentioning.
Great way to end it.
Worth mentioning. All right, number one, Train and Danielle. I'm blanking on all the
Oh,
maiden
yeah, yeah.
here.
I don't even think Train's name is Chris,
Yeah, Chris
right?
Dariano, but
Okay.
always call him Train.
And
Well
and his
done.
wife was a year younger than us, right?
Yep,
Okay. Yeah,
Danielle,
yeah.
sweet, sweet, sweet
That's a good
girl,
call. It's a
great
good call.
couple. And then another stag couple who was in Florida with me, Dan Rogan. Is that right?
Rogan? Oh, and
And
Claire
Karen.
Carter.
Yeah,
Married. That's right.
that's
Wow.
right.
See, look at you. Well done.
Redemption.
Well
Today was
done.
spelled Ton.
Love it. Thank you again for doing this, Tom. This is great.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for watching on YouTube. The Guru, I assume we'll be back next week, but if not, maybe someone else get to co-host. Tom, maybe we'll have you back. Who knows? But for everybody out there, all 8, 9, 10 of you, thank you for watching.